Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the 1st of October. Where's the year gone? My name is Nigel Canning. I'm a UK sales engineer for the south of England for Zyxel Networks. If you could bear with me for a minute or so, there's a few more people starting to join the webinar system, so I'll give them a minute to join and then crack on. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. And today is basically about a sort of an overview of our Zyxel Security Network products and the sort of where we're coming from with each of the ranges and things to bear in mind in general. So maybe long and we'll get started. Thank you. Right, we'll get started. So as I said, thank you very much for joining us today. This webinar basically is on Zyxel's security network products in general. And obviously, hopefully at the end of it, you'll get sent a link to the slides. So there's useful information about product sets, devices, and so on and so forth, and various links and stuff like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about notes unless you prefer to take that, but the slides will get sent to you. So as I said, thank you very much for joining us, and let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to do is basically, obviously, I don't think that many people, apart from people that are already aware of Zyxel, know that we are pretty innovative, R&D driven company. We've got lots of awards. We're Taiwanese headquartered company, so all of the electronics and R&D comes out of Taiwan and parts of America. But we've been around for many years. Very, very sound, well thought out security products, and I'm sure there's people that know that, but if they don't, then obviously some of these slides are just to show you where we're coming from. We've had numerous recommendations from various media companies worldwide that you probably have heard of, particularly for the small to medium-sized business securities type solutions. Obviously, people are probably aware of the sort of physical look of what the devices are like. We've had a consistent look and feel for many years now. If you ever think of a Zyxel product, that's this picture in the middle is what you tend to think of. And what we wanted to do is obviously these products are clearly aimed at protecting business networks, business environments, and so on and so forth. Obviously, some people that are fairly wealthy do use them in home environments for sort of sophisticated home environments, but primarily they're in the sort of small to medium-sized business network security product space. And in that space, we've been given some statistics from one of the research organizations. You can see that really nearly over half of small businesses somehow, for some reason, think they're too small to suffer some sort of cyber attack. And 47% of those small businesses really have no security device in place to protect them. They probably just use standard broadband router or something like that, and they have no real security mechanism in place. So if you are a reseller, there's a huge market for people that basically don't have security products in place rather. But I think it's probably important to understand, how you can go about explaining to them why they should have a security device in place. So a substantial number of those small businesses essentially go out of business if they've had a substantial security attack. So particularly malware and cryptoware, if you think of the damage that it can do, it essentially can knock out a small business. And the irony of it is a substantial number of breach victims are small businesses. In this instance, the example is saying about 40%. And in the last year or so, there's been an absolutely huge increase in the number of small businesses that have actually been hit by security issues, because they're obviously their security setup from network security devices to client device patch statuses and so on and so forth just isn't up to scratch. So hence they get hit easily by essentially automated bot type malware that just probes the internet, finds a weakness and just goes for it. And obviously there's relentless hackers out there. They don't you know, it's not a personal thing. I think a lot of small businesses think, well, there's no reason personally for some hacker to go after me. I think they think it's personal, but of course it's not. It's essentially automated. If they find a reasonable weakness, and if they can get in and, you know, fiddle with your payroll system or fiddle with some financial system, they're going to do that, aren't they, from financial gain. And once again, it's emphasizing the fact that, you know, more than half of these small businesses don't have any way of reacting to security issues either. Rather sad. One clear statement we wanted to make is that there's a very well-known, world-renowned lab called the ICSA Labs, which is all to do with testing security devices and so on and so forth. And we've basically had our devices tested by them continuously for the last 20 years, as you can see there. So you can see reports about our security devices, and they are independent. We send devices to them for testing, and they test them. If there's an issue or a weakness, it's discussed and analyzed and obviously fixed, and then it's retested again. We also work with leading security specialists, many security specialists. So we have global corporate agreements with McAfee and Webroot, Lastline and Trend and Bitdefender. And the idea of that is obviously that we leverage their sort of best in breed technology. They're global companies, they have a global sort of probe and detect sort of engines in place, and we leverage that information and we leverage their engines. They're integrated into our security devices to provide cost-effective security solutions to small and medium-sized businesses. One other thing I wanted to highlight to people in general is obviously that any security solution really needs to be multi-layered, and this is an example of the USG Flex product, which also applies to our top-end ATP devices and so on and so forth. But obviously, there is no one magic bullet to secure a network or to secure an office or to secure a series of offices. You know, there's the element of blocking security threats via matching URLs, detecting malware and viruses, intrusion detection and prevention systems, so on and so forth. And then there's obviously the other side of the coin, which is actually to manage and constrain your users' behavior. So, you know, we don't want them going to China or Russia, say, from a geographical point of view. You can put web filtering categorizations in place. You can monitor applications, so you can say, you know, I don't want any YouTube, I don't want any Facebook, so on and so forth. So there's two different characteristics to it, but the key message is it's multi-layered. There is no single magic bullet, as I've just said. You really do need security. It needs to be in depth, multiple layers, multiple mechanisms, so on, and the human element to it as well. So what I want to do before we get onto products, I just wanted to go over those sort of technical areas that most of our security devices cover. So obviously we've got VPN connectivity, including VPN high availability, which is not normally that common in small and medium-sized businesses. We normally have, each device normally has multiple WAN ports, so we can do load balancing for you for very resilient connections. You can integrate mobile broadband in that solution as well. And obviously you can load balance those wide area network connections as well. And we also have the ability to have virtual tunnels configured so that basically you can have VPNs trunked together for higher bandwidth and so on and so forth. Obviously, remote access nowadays is a complete given with COVID. We support SSL VPNs, we support level 2 tunneling protocol over IPsec, and obviously we support site-to-site IPsec VPNs. We also put quite a bit of effort into making these VPNs fairly easy to set up for the more junior networking staff. So if you don't really understand the VPNs heavily, you can just set them up from a sort of a wizard type facility. And obviously we use the most up-to-date keys and hashes and IPsec protocol suites. Then in terms of functionality that the devices offer, obviously they provide antivirus. Probably the first thing most people are aware of. Content filtering, so that you can basically leverage a database of URLs that basically categorize traffic so that you can filter out certain types of traffic. Then obviously there's application intelligence via analyzing your layer 7 traffic that goes through. You can prioritize that traffic. So obviously voice over IP or video traffic can be given higher categorization to lower performance, say file transfers and that sort of thing. And some of the security devices, the more higher end ones, have got basically a geographical enforcer mechanism. So basically there are IP engines out there that allow you to work out an IP address's location, categorize it as a country or a particular area, and then that can be blocked. In the higher end security offerings, we have a system called sandboxing and machine learning, which is a continuous mechanism to really try and catch up with this kind of zero-day threats, which is, one of the worst areas of any kind of security issue. These are more in the ATP, our advanced threat protection firewall devices, which we'll come to later on. But we also have mechanisms that filter out botnets and malware engines. Once our cloud database engines know about these threats, then the on-premise devices are automatically updated to filter out such malware. Obviously, we have intrusion detection and prevention solutions for scanning network traffic, and we have a reputation filter, which is basically a real-time database of current known cyber activities, which, if you tend to filter against those, you can knock off a lot of the very active security threats at the current time in real time. Obviously, some maybe non-security related aspects of the solutions. A lot of the devices include AP management, so that you can manage access points, Wi-Fi access points that are connected to the devices cost effectively, and you can have a hotspot feature as well. So if you want to issue tickets for Wi-Fi connectivity within hospitality, these devices also provide that as well. And then a few other sort of network related features: link aggregation for creating trunk groups. The higher end devices have high availability pro features, so you have a matched pair of devices, and so you can have an active passive failover, and that is a free feature. We can do SSL packet inspection with the appropriate certificates installed, and we have Radius and Active Directory integration, so you can have an on-premise Windows network or even an Azure cloud, say, and you can integrate your user authentication, particularly useful for VPNs and stuff like that. One of the features that came out recently post the introduction of the ATP Advanced Threat Protection System was the new USG Flex product family. And with this, we've introduced what we call Express Mode, which is it's a mechanism where you basically you hash the data coming through your firewall, and you compare the hashes with a cloud engine. So it's a much faster way of detecting threats. And also, because you don't have to send all that data up to the cloud, you can leave. It's possible to actually do this kind of fast comparison against known threats and so on and so forth. So obviously, there's a firmware upgrade coming through soon. The ATP is our top range device. Come to in a minute, and then there's different modes of express mode, deep scan mode, where you can basically scan the whole stream of data coming through locally, or you can push it up to the cloud engine. It'll become clearer with products later on. These slides, as I say, will be available, so you can basically see what the express mode does. Basically, it uses hashes, as I've just said. The other mechanism is to use signature matching by using hardware engines on the device. There's twos and fros for each of them, which is, I don't have the time to go through the advantages and disadvantages, but obviously in the slides it's telling you what that is. But we offer you options basically, so you need to look at what your security requirement is and then match the features that we provide for you. One thing today is obviously a lot of people have got resources running on the Amazon cloud and Microsoft Azure, so you can get virtual desktops within Amazon, you can get virtual desktops within Microsoft Azure, and obviously our firewalls and VPN connectivity has now been certified by Amazon and by Azure, so you can use an on-premise Zyxel firewall security device to create a secure VPN connection into AWS and Microsoft Azure. So you could have virtual desktops living in the cloud, all managed by the appropriate company, and we give you secure encrypted connectivity to those devices. So what we want to get onto first is the most basic product is what's called the VPN device. And that, if you like, is historically a straightforward firewall device. As it says on here, it does have a wireless controller functionality. I'm not going to go into the software-defined WAN, but it can be used for that if necessary. It does have device high availability, and there's an option for content filtering as well. But the VPN type devices are essentially traditional type firewalls, so blocking source and destination IP addresses or protocols and so on and so forth. As I said, there is a content filtering option, but that's our kind of introductory type, let's just say, firewall solution. Cost effective, site-to-site VPNs, can be used for other things like SD-WAN, but perhaps not for a sophisticated office that could have a bit more security risk floating around. So the models for the VPN series are basically the basic model is this VPN 2S. Each of the slides has obviously the number of interfaces, the kind of throughputs, the VPN throughput, and so on and so forth. So the USG 20, VPN 50, 100, 300, so on and so forth. So you can basically pick the number of interfaces you need, pick the stateful packet inspection firewall throughput, match the VPN throughput, so on and so forth. So as I said, basic firewall, choose the characteristics of your environment and network that you require, and obviously then purchase the appropriate device. For high availability, clearly the higher end devices, when they're in a matched pair mode, can create a high availability network connection. The next device, which people may have come across using Nebula, is what's called the NSG. Went too fast there, sorry. Go back. Yeah, so the NSG, so that's the Nebula Security Gateway. This is a very easy security UTM type device to install and support. If people are using Nebula and Wi-Fi and switching at the moment, you literally register the device just as you would normally, connect it all up to your switching and wireless access points, and you can configure it all remotely. All you need to do is connect a WAN port to an internet segment, and then the LAN ports to your switching, and then off you go. It does a more sort of consistent, simplified view of management via the Nebula Control Center. You can simply deploy VPNs from the gateway, very straightforward to do that. It has a concept of a UTM mechanism, which is well known about, which in Nebula terms, it's basically the security services. So you have intrusion prevention, you can block traffic characteristics, antivirus scanning, content filtering, so on and so forth, as per the features on the screen here. That requires a license, a Nebula Security Services license. When you buy a device, it comes with a 1-year license at the beginning, and then obviously you renew that, or you can buy multi-year licenses or points as necessary. So the nice thing about that is you can basically monitor all of your switching, Wi-Fi, and security from this Nebula Control Center. So if you prefer a cloud-based solution, then the NSG is the way to go. And we have the products are the 50, the 100, the 200, and the 300. And once again, the differences on the number of interfaces, the performance in terms of the throughputs, the amount of VPN traffic supported, so on and so forth. So once again, work out what your requirements are, match it to these specifications, and order the device. Next up is what's called the USG Flex. So people have probably been quite aware of our USG devices for many years. It's been hugely popular series of security devices, a real sort of Swiss Army knife for sort of security features. That device, the USG, is now being slowly but surely replaced by the USG Flex, which is in many respects, it's kind of like for like, but with additional features migrated from the ATP platform down into the USG Flex. So we'll just go over what the USG Flex offers. So basically, it's a new hardware platform. So it gives you higher performance. It still has things like wireless controller functionality. It has enhanced UTM mechanisms to do with additional filtering lists, particularly to do with education and counter-terrorism related filtering. It has flexible management options. At the beginning of next year, the USG Flex will also be, as per the name Flex, it will also be manageable via Nebula Control Center. So USG Flex will be going to Nebula. And it also has high availability features when you have a suitable device version. So the basic version don't support high availability, but the medium and higher performance devices have got the capacity to support device high availability. These slides essentially go over what was already earlier on about the differences in express mode. So express mode was introduced with the introduction of the USG Flex, and it gives you, as I said before, the ability by using hashing of the data that goes to the device to compare those hashes with the cloud engines for much higher scanning rates. Once again, there's the slide in terms of what the features are, in terms of why you'd want to choose them. One of the things we wanted to show is basically if you've got a current USG device, what would the kind of equivalent device be and what would its performance characteristics be? So this slide is quite useful for that. So you've nearly got doubling in basic firewall performance, and the UTM function is hugely increased because of things like the express mode and hashing comparisons and so on and so forth. So you can see that if you've got a USG 40 and perhaps a 60, you would go to a USG Flex 100 or a 200. And if you're in the sort of the USG 110 space, then you would go to a USG Flex 500. These products are expanding as well, which I'll explain at the end. So you've got 3 models of USG Flex out at the moment, but with more to come soon. These slides just give you a detailed view of the USG Flex devices. So once again, you've got the number of interfaces, the throughput characteristics, the kind of management options, and so on and so forth. So once again, I won't keep going over it. You just choose your requirements and then choose the appropriate device. One of the things we did want to say is that if you've got current USG licenses, these can be migrated to the USG Flex. So basically, depending on what type of license you've got, be it web filtering, anti-malware, so on and so forth, you take the longest license that's still left to go, and that then gets migrated to the USG Flex. So you don't actually lose out. In fact, you get free additional licensing effectively when you transfer your USG license to a USG Flex. This slide is just showing you basically that the bundled license is then added onto it, basically. So you get an additional period. So you get the 1 year that comes with the device, and then whatever is outstanding from your current USG device when you upgrade. There you go. Let me take a drink. The next devices up are the advanced threat protection devices, which is we refer to them as ATP, and these are our top-end security devices. And they've brought in over the last year, 18 months, some quite sophisticated cloud-based technology that isn't on the USG Flexes even. So this is, I would say, it's our, as it says advanced threat protection. It's our top-end device. It's got very good performance, very high performance. It's got a similar hardware to the USG Flexes. If you want wireless functionality, then it's there as well. Obviously, device high availability from the ATP 500 models up is available. But what it has got is the ability to sort of detect as best it possibly can these sort of zero-day threats. So it's got a technology called sandboxing and what they call artificial intelligence technology. Doesn't everybody call their things artificial intelligence nowadays? But genuinely, what it does, threats that it can't work out by the on-premise scanning, it pushes that threat over to the ATP cloud engines. And what it does over there, the cloud engines have got different security engines running in there, and they take that threat apart. And if it doesn't like what it's doing, so say for instance, it's a file that's trying to tweak the DHCP server settings or something like that. So basically it runs the file, for instance, if it's an attachment within as I said, a sandbox, a safe environment, and looks at the characteristics of that execution path. If it doesn't like what it does, then it just destroys the file and passes down that fact to the on-premise device, which then blocks it. And obviously, if you think about it, so the zero-day threats are particularly nasty because if you haven't patched your device, if you haven't patched your client devices, so laptops, desktops, and so on and so forth, and even maybe a security threat that's been announced, within sort of 1 or 2 weeks, and the security signatures haven't picked up with it, then you'll see the probing, you'll see some weird characteristics get sent up to the sandbox, so you can pick up this sort of very unknown or very fastly occurring security issue. It's obviously got UTM features. They're enhanced beyond the traditional UTM by leveraging capacity, unlimited capacity essentially within the cloud environment. And it has things like URL threat filters and so on and so forth. So it can pick up active, ongoing characteristically nasty threats. So the whole point of basically the ATP is it's going beyond the traditional conventional UTM characteristics. So rather than just rely on signatures and heuristics and known methods, it basically uses sophisticated detection mechanisms to try and filter out these sophisticated zero-day threats. So these are just slides that are showing you, hopefully, how normal conventional UTM works. So you've got files that are known to be good, and you've got files and data that's known to be very bad because the signatures match it. But then you've got this sort of unidentified grey area that can look, could be okay, very suspicious, or something completely unknown. So basically we use the sandboxing and the artificial intelligence mechanisms to work out what to do about that and scan it and so on and so forth. So unknown threats, which could well be zero-day threats, are taken care of and shredded by the cloud. So basically here's some, it's just some words that I've just been talking about really basically. But basically this is, I'd say, one of the really good features of the ATP product family. Those zero-day threats, particularly if they hold cryptoware payloads, are really, really dreadful to business. You get your client devices, encrypted, the disk's encrypted, you've got a hell of a lot of pain coming your way. So these are drawings that hope to show basically how the cloud security engines help to basically leverage the on-premise security devices. So it's just a drawing to show basically what happens. So basically these unknown threats go into the system, they get emulated, taken apart. If they are identified as malicious, then they go straight off to be destroyed. If they are okay or worked out, then obviously the security databases get updated so that any future threats like that would either be allowed through or they'd be immediately blocked. They wouldn't even be sent up to the engine. So, and it's obviously, it's a positive ecosystem. What happens with this, and it's a global ecosystem running in real time with as I said very early on, there's a lot of third-party security engines that we're leveraging as well, which are running in our security cloud. So there's a lot of comparisons with a lot of different security engines trying to pick up. It's like having 4, 5, 6, 7 different antivirus engines running and so on and so forth. So it's a global system running in real time, feeds the threats back to the ATP in real time so that you can have a huge security detection rate. I mean, it really is an industry leading solution. It leverages some technology from Last Line, very high end enterprise grade security solution, which basically, because we've obviously purchased the rights to use that engine, we can, there's a graph here showing you how its characteristics, we can leverage and provide you with like enterprise grade security, but at a small and medium sized business cost. So you can see the effectiveness of the security engines, so Trend and Last Line and so on and so forth. And these engines are basically built into our products. So this is the ATP portfolio, just as in the previous slides. So basically, I should also mention that an ATP product comes with what's called a 1-year gold security pack. The licenses aren't split in any way. The gold pack contains everything. So as long as the security license is valid, you have all of the features and capabilities. And obviously, they need to be renewed every year, or you can get 2-year or multi-year renewals. So you've got the 100, you've got the 100W version. That basically the W versions are, as people are aware, basically it's got an access point built into it. You've got the 200, 500, and now you've got the 700 and the 800. So obviously it's going up once again in terms of the number of WAN ports or the number of LAN ports, the amount of processing power and memory, so that the UTM and SPI throughput it can be increased, the number of access points you can manage, and so on and so forth. So you also tend to have SFPs in them. So if you've got fiber connectivity, you can have multiple SFPs for multiple redundant fiber internet circuits. So once again, work out what your requirements are, then look at the characteristics of the device, match it. If you need high availability, buy 2 of. What I would say with high availability, you don't have to have multiple licenses once the 1-year renewal is gone. So if it's running as a matched high availability pair in years 2 and above, you just need to license one of the devices. Then one of the other features that any security solution has to provide really is what's called monitoring and reporting. Now, if you're going to work on a project and you've got to justify this security project, you need a way of really reporting. Just looking at firewall security logs is okay, but it'll just drive you mad because there's such a lot of noise and threats going on all the time. So we have a platform called Secure Reporter, which basically allows you to monitor all of your security devices. It's a centralized solution. All of the sort of analytic data is sent from the on-premise device up to the Secure Reporter cloud. You then log into there and you can figure it all up, and it gives you a picture for all of your devices, all of your sites. So you can basically have a comprehensive view of what your business is doing in terms of threats, users, so on and so forth. So basically log data, application data, and security data analytics get pushed up as well. And then obviously Secure Reporter can have a basic dashboard. It can produce weekly or monthly reports, and obviously it can do alerting and so on and so forth as required. But really, I think this is very useful for perhaps the sales or commercial people that need to justify a security solution that you're working on, because you can use Secure Reporter to actually show the finance director or the owners of companies what your solution is capable of doing and what it will be able to offer. So it offers you the ability to work out who, what, and when, as they say. So basically, who is doing it, what are they trying to do, when did they try to do it, in a nice simple graph format. So what kinds of threats have you experienced, what was the target, when did it occur, who is the attacker, and where is it from. So it may be that they're continually trying to target the finance department. When are they trying to do that? Are they always trying to do it at midnight, or is it the time zone of, say, Russia? So I apologize, I keep picking on Russia. Who is the attacker? So is it probes from an Amazon cloud, or as I said, Russian known IP addresses, or China? All those kind of information can be put in the reporting, and you can work out what is going on. So it helps managers and business people and so on and so forth to basically spot perhaps risky users or risky user behavior, so that you can educate them, because they're not necessarily doing something deliberately. It's just they may not realize what they're doing and the effects of it. So this kind of reporting allows you to feed back in a positive way, from an educational point of view. Please don't do that, or work out what's going on, and obviously increase your security, so you can block that particular application, or you can block that particular set of IP addresses or subnet or autonomous system, whatever. But if you're not aware of what's going on, you can't really take decisions and so on and so forth. Well, I would say this is a multi-tenant solution, so it's ideal for resellers and MSPs, so you can have all of your customers under a single platform. So you can have a central view of visibility and sort of common threats that are happening. Simply scalable, you don't have to go and install more servers and stuff yourself. You just, we take care of all that. And as you build sort of custom analytics solutions, you can apply it to each customer. You can have customized alerts, all the kinds of things that you'd expect to see in a sophisticated analytics and reporting platform. It's just that this applies to security. So obviously, you can have customized supports. Obviously, put your MSP or branding on it, and you can schedule these reports to be sent to your clients or managers, once a week or whatever. So if you've got a service you want to offer, and part of that service is a monthly report, you can send that report out to your customer, and your account manager can obviously ring the customer up and say, a couple of days after you sent the report out, say, have you seen this particular characteristics been going on? And then you can advise them what to do. And obviously you can charge for that advice if it's not part of a service. So it gives you a mechanism to engage with your customer. It's a very high value solution, Secure Reporter. The other thing, of course, it does help with GDPR compliance. When you configure it, you can specify, personal data is clearly identifiable. This isn't snooping on people's emails or anything like that, but you can identify, for instance, the client IP address, that sort of thing. Or you can be partially anonymous, so personal data is replaced by artificial identifiers from the archive logs, or you can be fully anonymous. So all of the compliance mechanisms that you require, the system provides. You can get started with Secure Reporter by going to this particular URL. And if you've got a security device that has a Secure Reporter license, you'll find that you register on here. Then you configure Secure Reporter on your on-premise device, and then the data gets sent up to Secure Reporter, and off you go. There are licenses for Secure Reporter, depending on the model and so on and so forth. You can see a table here. This is all online. This is slightly out of date. I did try to get a more up-to-date one, but it's not quite there yet because the USG Flex licenses are out there, but they haven't updated the table yet. But you get the gist of it. So basically, if you buy a full license, say for USG Flex or an ATP, it comes with a Secure Reporter. If you break the license out on a USG Flex, then you can choose not to have Secure Reporter or whatever. It would be I think it'd be a shame if you didn't include Secure Reporter, because basically I think there's very high value in actually reporting back to your business, to your customers. What I also wanted to mention, which I'm probably boring some people to death on webinars, my view is that obviously any network security project tends to be sort of multi-year project. And one of the things that people don't realize is that we have a next business day warranty uplift for, it's something in the region of £30 or £35 to a reseller. So this is the part number highlighted in red. The part numbers for switches and wireless devices are also on there. But basically, for a very small amount of money, you'll get guaranteed next business day delivery on your security device. Now, considering how critical the devices are, to me, it doesn't make sense not to have warranty uplift put onto a device. I'm not doing this to, generate more money or anything like that. It's just, I think if I don't point it out, people don't realize that the warranty uplifts are there. Obviously, I mentioned earlier on that obviously there are some new models and Nebula support coming out. So the USG Flex, as the name Flex implies, is going to be Nebula manageable in the early part of next year. And there are USG Flex 700 and USG Flex 100W devices coming out. And this URL here will give you information about those devices that are coming out. So sort of in summary, we have a broad range of devices. We are a very long-term security device player, probably haven't got our name out there as well as we should do. So we're putting effort into getting across the basics of where we're coming from, what our standards are, what our sort of history is of really good, leveraging really good security engines, leveraging our own technology, leveraging cloud technology, and building really good network security platforms from on-premise, cloud engines, cloud reporting, and then obviously leveraging, you've got support department, you've got warranty, you've got limited lifetime warranty on the devices. So essentially, you have a lifetime warranty, which is defined as when the device is declared as going end of life, we will then support it for 5 years after that. So the devices are actually warranted for a substantial period of time from a practical point of view. So just got to the end. Now's the time if anyone's got any questions. I'll hang around for a while until the questions are all sorted out. If people aren't aware of the Zyxel MSP program, I just stick this slide up there. And I would just like to thank you all for your time. Come to the end, I will stay on for questions. I can see a couple. If anyone needs anything, you know where I am. You've got my email address, nigel.canning@zyxel.co.uk. Only too pleased to help. I can see various people on the attendee list, which I recognise. So good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all well. If I can do anything, if you want some further advice, or obviously we do under the Zyxel Allo program have the not for resale scheme, so you can get a substantial discount on a device that you're going to use internally for evaluation or within your office and so on and so forth. We'll hopefully have security upgrade opportunities over the next sort of 6 months. So if you're thinking about replacing your customers' USG devices, or if you've got competitive opportunities to swap out, so if you've got Sophos or other devices, let us know. We can help work out a plan, maybe so during the year, work out a mechanism to replace all those devices, work out what the devices are, and then obviously help support that. So thank you very much. I will shut up now. Wish you a happy afternoon, a good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining me. Stay safe, and I'll hang around for a while for questions. Thank you very much indeed.